Welcome to another wonderful episode of Shoes Off Talk.
Yes, sir.
I hope everyone had a blessed weekend. I hope you're having a blessed week. This is midweek. So how's everybody's week going so far?
Mine's amazing. How about yours, Floyd?
Mine's going awesome so far. I am really loving this. Got the day off. Oh, I'm cool.
Now that we're here, we can shoot the. I was about to curse. I wasn't sure.
She was about to say shoot the shit. This is Shoes Off Talk. You can say whatever you want to say.
Can I say that?
Yeah, you can say that.
Yeah.
We're about to shoot the shit. I like that.
All right.
We got to have an episode called Shoot the Shit.
Well, you just talk about anything, just
random stuff.
Random.
You know what?
Okay,
that could be the episode where we go live on our social medias and we let our people on live start the conversation.
That would be good.
And we can call
like
that Shoot the Shit.
I like that.
Yeah.
And then I want to have another one called Coffees and Conversation.
Okay. Because there are some good conversations during coffee, that's
Yes,
for sure.
It is. I think that's when you're the hypest, when you've gotten that caffeine in you.
Yeah,
And the
really
conversations
That's when you get the real tea.
Yes. Or coffee. So, today is a very interesting topic, one that a lot of people either know of or don't know of, whether it be you dealing with it personally or the fact that you know someone that's dealing with it personally.
Yeah.
And that is PTSD, the invisible wounds that never fade. Fitting description of the topic because they are invisible to the point to where a lot of people don't even realize they have it. I know for me personally, I've dealt with it a large portion of my life. And back in the day, people only associated the military with PTSD.
I know.
And it was a growing thing to where not only did people not know about it, the symptoms, they were aware, like I said, that PTSD is something that is very common.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's more common now that it's going on or more common that people are more aware of it.
I think it's the second, more common that people are now aware of it.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are ashamed to say anything. So they think it's a military thing. So if you haven't been in the military, I can't have PTSD. So shame comes with it. But people that are abused, people that have been in accidents, really bad car accidents, there's a lot of things that can cause PTSD. So it's not the small group of people from the military that have PTSD. We're learning that it's more wide range than we initially thought. I personally have dealt with PTSD in my family. Both my son and his girlfriend were in a really bad motorcycle accident. And I remember going to serve him a dinner plate and he kung fu ninja'd me like it was just his PTSD that kicked in. And I was like, whoa, plate went shattering. And his girlfriend, same thing. She'd hear a loud noise and she'd jump. She'd get startled. So, at first I'm going, what the hell's going on? And then I realized, oh, they have PTSD. They have it. But they didn't even know at the time. So a lot of it is diagnosing, realizing what you have, going and seeking help, learning the things to help you. You don't have to suffer in pain. You don't have to, or suffer alone. You don't have to suffer alone. One of the first symptoms is depression, being super tired, not able to get out of bed, and people might be ashamed of that, not realizing that is a symptom of PTSD. So I agree with Tim. That is a lot bigger. A lot more people are suffering from it than we know. And we need to start having sympathy and compassion and recognizing the symptoms so that we can help people through it.
Right. I mean, with what I've learned about it is that, yeah, it is, it goes all across the board when it comes to PTSD. Yeah, not just the military, but you have, and it's starting to come into the hospitals with the nurses, the firefighters, police, you know, because all the traumatic things that go on in their life, it's like all these events starts to bother up. And so now I can, oh my God, I was just thought about it. I was talking to this one police officer, and he told me, he said, look, he said that when he's out and he's going on his job every day, just going on, and then, you know, he just goes and he goes down the alley. If he has to go down the alley, he has to close his eyes before he even goes. Because it's a tragic event that happened when a long time ago when he was in the alley and stuff, and that started to carry on.
It's a trigger.
Yeah, right. It was a trigger. You know? So I was like, wow. I said, but then I told him, I said, well, you should have looked at our show when we talked about coping mechanisms. You know, so he was like, yeah, but I was like asking, like, you know, what is your coping mechanism? What do you do? You know,
right.
And more so, like you said, he just closes his eyes, takes a deep breath, you know, and then just say that, you know, he can do this and just keep going.
He probably doesn't even know that he's using breath to help him through that. That's huge. It's one of the first things, the most simple thing is bringing yourself back to your breath when you feel that trigger. So that's doing that naturally. That's awesome.
The crazy thing is, as I'm reading this, just to give people the Google insight on what post-traumatic stress syndrome is or disorder. It's a mental health condition that can develop after experiencing or witnessing a traumatic event, leading to symptoms like intrusive memories, avoidance behaviors, and heightened arousal. The symptoms are intrusive memories, which means unwanted and distressing memories, thoughts, or nightmares related to the trauma. Avoiding situations, places, thoughts, or feelings that remind them of the trauma. Negative thoughts and feelings, persistent negative beliefs about oneself, others, or the world, as well as feelings of guilt, shame, or hopelessness. Hyperarousal, increased startle response, what you were talking about with your son, difficulty sleeping, irritability, and difficulty concentrating. For me and my experience with post-traumatic stress disorder, it has been something, like I said, I've dealt with probably since the age of 22, 23. And it was, for me, it was a compilation of a few things. Military, I was involved in a shooting, and then I probably stared down a barrel of a gun maybe 2 or 3 times in my life. So all of that is kind of what led to my post-traumatic stress syndrome. But the thing about it is they said that there's treatment for it, and what Google says as far as treatment is, they said it's treatable. And effective treatment includes therapy such as cognitive processing therapy, CPT, or exposure therapy and medication. I do not agree with the medication part of it, and I would not advise people to get caught up in medication, because that's where dependency comes, especially depending on the level of your PTSD and how severe it is. I would stay as far away from medication as possible. I don't really think you ever. It's for me. I strongly believe it's not curable. I've come a long way in dealing with my PTSD, but I still and crazy thing is like you a lot of times you don't even realize you're doing it. Like you don't realize how it's affecting you.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've been a season ticket holder with the Suns for maybe between 10 and 13 years, and every game I go to, I have to be there 2 hours early. They used to have it for season ticket holders that only the season ticket holders can get in 2 hours early, which was great for me. But then a couple of years ago, they opened it up for everyone to be able to go in 2 hours early. And so for me, also is I would always have to leave before the game ended. And that was really a crowd thing. And where my seats are now are perfect for me because I used to be sitting on the floor, but I would sit on the floor and just constant people walking behind me. People were literally like sitting like on you on the floor. You know, if anybody's ever gone to a game, you know that your space is not really your space because there's so many people there.
Right.
And so sometimes that would be the reason why I would never invite people to games is because I knew I was leaving, you know, before the game was over and people were there to enjoy it, then I felt like I was imposing on that. But it's difficult. And I do it now, not even realizing that I'm doing it. But I think it's just doing that for me just carves out my own space, and then I can kind of prepare for the crowds. And that's been a thing. Even going to clubs back in the day, I would always sit or stand where I could see everybody. I could never like be in the middle of the crowd, so I was always sitting somewhere like with my back to the wall. And it doesn't affect me as much now if I am put in those situations because it used to be in the past that I would literally have sweat beads going down the center of my back. And so I've come a long way with dealing it. I am 100% disabled veteran, and a large portion of that is my PTSD. And so I've never had the desire or the feel like I needed to take any medication to resolve that because I strongly feel that medication, all it does is really mask the problem. And then what you end up doing is creating another one because if you don't know how to deal with your PTSD, you become reliant on that medication.
Right.
So I'd like to talk a little bit more about the things that you can do to help the things that you said. What is exposure therapy? I've never heard of that one. And I'd like people to hear a little bit more about what these techniques are in case they're interested in seeking help.
Exposure therapy, a lot of that is you facing the things that caused you the trauma. Because a lot of times our trauma is never dealt with because we run from it. It's almost like your fear of heights or your fear of anything. They tell you the way to get over your fears is to face your fears. And that's the same thing with PTSD is like if guns were something that was triggering me, a good way to get over that trigger is to actually like go to a range, shoot a gun, get comfortable with it, understand that the gun doesn't harm you. It's people with guns that harm you.
Right.
So a spin-off on that with exposure therapy, because I wasn't sure. I thought, expose yourself to your trauma. Who wants to do that? But if you think about it, the nightmares that you have, it's exposing you to those traumas. The reason you wake up in a panic and a sweat is your body's way of trying to release it through your sleep. So instead of waking up and having that, like, you're pissed off about having that dream and letting it ruin your entire day, the first thing I've started doing myself when I have, like, I've been recently releasing a lot. So I do wake up with those, like, panic and anxiety, and I tell myself, thank you for the release. Thank you for releasing these fears and anxiety in my dream, because it is your body's way of trying to get it out and release it.
Right.
So acceptance of it
right.
is huge.
As you know, when you're talking about guns, that my issue with that, well, my situation with that was I've been in that situation growing up. And the thing is that I don't have the whole PTSD, but it's like I could have had it. Of all the
sure
trauma,
you don't?
I'm sure. But it's like all the trauma and all the experiences that I've had that would cause a lot of people, because everybody's different, but what will cause people to get it, I've experienced those things, like Tim was saying,
you've learned coping mechanisms.
Right, but then like Tim was saying, staring at in the barrel of a gun, been there, done that, been shot at 2 times, shoot.
Do you have any suppressed
that
you might not be acknowledging?
The thing is that over a life period of time, in my head, in my situations, I've always said, okay, well, that's just how it is on that side. That's normal, that's what happens.
And that's the thing with a lot of children that are exposed to trauma very early on. It becomes a normal way of life. Yeah, it almost becomes desensitized.
It is, because when I went into the military, it was one of those things that it wasn't like a fearful kind of thing for me, because what happens there, I experienced at home, and so I was like, well, over here, I put it like it's legal to shoot a gun, in the military.
So I might as well sign up.
So I don't know. No, but no, it's all that, everything that is taught in the military and what you have to deal with. Yes, it will cause you to get PTSD.
Well, one of the things too that I want to have everybody be aware of is, like, and that's the reason why I asked you, how do you know? Because a lot of times, well, most times your PTSD is situational. And so if you're taken out of those situations, you never had to deal with those situations, that's not necessarily meaning that you don't have it anymore or you don't have it. It's just that you haven't had those triggers to bring it up.
Right.
So it's simple as this. If I grew up in the projects, which I did, and I was exposed to the violence and all of that, and then able to move to the suburbs, and I've never had to deal with that again before in my life, the only way I would realize that either I don't have it anymore or I never had it is for me to go back and revisit those situations and be exposed to it. That's the other thing. It's like, that's the other thing about exposure as well, is like, when you take yourself out of that situation, not saying that you ran from it, but you're not exposed to that situation anymore, and you have a tendency to put that trauma in the back of your brain.
So personally, for you, do you feel like exposure therapy would help or cause more trauma? Because the way I see it, or I think of it, is like a woman who's been abused, and you see when she's triggered, if she sees someone else being abused, it automatically will start a panic attack for her. I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing to throw those triggers at someone. What are your thoughts?
Well, The only reason why I would say to expose someone is if it's good if you have children, because if you the more you expose yourself to anything in life as an adult, the more information you have to pass on to your kids on how to deal with certain things. Our life is just a compilation of experiences. And the more experiences that we have, the more it becomes easier for us to relate that to our kids, our loved ones, and people that we meet. Because our hope is with our life experiences, whether good or bad, is that we want to be able to share those for either have people vicariously live through us with the good experiences and let them know what it looks like, and want to have those same experiences, or on the other side, the bad experiences of it, and what led to those bad experiences. If you have an opportunity to speak on that and talk about that with other people, even if it's 10 situations and you keep them from just one of those situations by something you've experienced, is a benefit.
Do you think maybe trying some other therapies first so that you can first recognize the signs of your triggers so that you can learn techniques? Like if somebody is triggered automatically, instead of having a panic attack, start breathing a certain way automatically to, hopefully, the hopes is to stop that panic attack from coming on?
That is the biggest remedy to having a panic attack from PTSD. Like in every book, every doctor that specializes in treatment of it, that's the first thing that they tell you is to control your breathing. That's first and foremost before anything else, is control your breathing, because you can literally cause yourself to have a heart attack, or
Panic attack,
or suffer a stroke. Like those are things that are triggers for those two things, and so that's why it's so important. And the more you control your breathing, the more it settles your body.
Right.
Because when you go into panic mode, it triggers so many endorphins in your body, and it just affects every part of your body. It's not just the mental aspect of it. So I think when it comes to other things that you can do, that's more of something that you yourself, Christy, has the of any of us have the most experience, because you have so many outlets that mentally take your mind away from negative things or things that you can do. So my question for you is, I don't know if you've experienced PTSD, but knowing the symptoms of PTSD, what would you recommend?
Well, I shared with you guys that I had my first panic attack about a year ago. I had never had a panic attack before. And I was mad that when I realized what was going on, that I was having a panic attack, I got mad at myself. What the hell? I'm like, I can't control my breathing. I'm hyperventilating. This has never happened to me. I'm a breathing expert. Why is this happening? And I had to get out of my head and sit down and think, okay, what breath helps the nervous system? And automatically I started doing 4 to 6 count breaths. So that, do you guys want to try it right now just to see how you feel? Sure. It's very simple, and we'll just do it a couple of times. So take a minute, tune into yourself, see how you feel.
Do we need
relax.
To close our eyes?
You don't have to.
So why does everybody's eyes automatically close?
Because when you relax, sometimes you need to go inward. It helps to close your eyes, but you don't have to. Sometimes, the panic is happening and you can't close your eyes. So anyway, relax the tension from the shoulders, unclench the jaw, realize where you're holding tension in your body. Now we're going to inhale 4 counts. We're going to exhale 6 counts.
So are we going
inhale through the nose and out 4 counts. Exhale through the mouth 6 counts. Ready? You feel yourself release a little bit in your body, in your jaw, in your joints. Close your eyes and inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Take a moment. You feel more relaxed. Now that breath helps to readjust the nervous system. What it does is it tells your body that I am safe. So if you're feeling that panic, the first thing you want to do is try to settle that nervous system. That is a great way to tap in. You breathe in through the nose, out through your mouth. If you can focus on inhaling at your abdomen first and then bringing up to the chest and release it all out, that's better. But really just do the count. 4 in through the nose, 6 out through the mouth to realign that nervous system. And tell your body, give it a little hug and say, you're safe. You're safe. Yes. And then also the great thing to do after you breathe is think of 5 things that you can see. I see Floyd, I see Tim, I see this table, I see that TV, I see myself in these cameras. 4 things that you can touch: table, chair, my clothes, my hair. 3 things that you can hear. I can hear the air conditioner. I can hear Tim. I can hear Floyd. I can, the different sense, tap into those senses. What can you smell? 2 things you can smell. Maybe perfume, incense, every smell.
I smell mint.
And one thing that you can feel. What is an emotion that you can feel without judgment within yourself? Want to know why it's one thing? Because we all have such a hard time doing that. Without judgment, we judge ourselves, we judge others. We can't help that. So think of, like, I'm feeling this way. Like, the first thing I thought of is I got mad at myself when I was having that panic attack. I'm the expert. I should know how to do this. Feel those feelings without judgment. It's okay. It's okay. Let it go.
Oh, that's good.
And focus on those things.
And that's one thing about PTSD, like you said, is there's no.
Mm-hmm. And what that does is ground you back to right here, this moment, because we're living in the past. When we have PTSD, when we have an anxiety attack, we're living in the past. So what that brings you to the moment, to the present moment. I can hear my breath. I can see Floyd and Tim. I can touch. I can smell. It brings you to this moment. And then it brings you inward to, how do I feel? Can I be honest with my feelings without judgment?
I think recently it has become more of a non-judgmental thing because there's so many other people that are exposed to it now, and the fact that there's so much information out now on PTSD, it is definitely more commonplace now than at any other time. I lost my thought. You had said something. It'll come to me. Anyway, yes, PTSD is a real thing. It's nothing to be ashamed of. Sometimes the remedy could be something as simply talking about it, sharing it with other people. And that could be, something that you do to help you get over it is there's groups that meet or people that that have commonplace.
And where do you find
traumatic? I mean, it's all over the internet, or as far as military men, like there's so many people that are prior military I know for veterans they offer a ton of services for PTSD and mental disorders.
What about your friends that don't suffer with PTSD? Do you think that it's a good idea to talk to them and maybe educate them so they can have an understanding, a better understanding?
It's one of those things to where it's definitely good to educate people on PTSD, because the more information that people have, one, the less judgmental they are about it.
More compassion.
And two, they become more compassionate about it. And we live in a world that human kindness isn't very abundant. And so it helps you understand a lot about people and what people go through. Not that they want sympathy, but it's empathy is definitely something that it would be needed. Sorry about
Someone
that, y'all.
forgot to put their phone on silent.
That was me. That was me. Yep. Everybody in the world knows that shoes off talk is going on now. So that
maybe not the time.
No.
If they live in different states.
Yeah. But like we always say, you never know.
Well, see, even with that, like, if you think of different strategies, different approaches that people can tend to when it comes to just their everyday life. You know, if they were to use those different type of styles like fashion, use all those different outlets to, I won't say mask it, but I would say more so incorporate those things in their lives, everyday function.
What do you mean?
Incorporate the music, incorporate fashion,
the creativity, things that help them to
do that. Because one thing about it, the more you stay active in doing positive
things you love,
then the more it will help you.
I definitely think that does help. The first step in anything that you're trying to get past or you're trying to get over is recognizing that it exists. Once you get to that point where you recognize it exists, you definitely find some things that take your mind off of it. Because if you do it the other way around and not acknowledge it, then you're just masking the problem. It's not really a resolve. So that's the important thing. I mean, with drugs, alcohol, everything, you go to counseling, the first thing that they tell you is just you got to admit you got a problem. Because non-admittance it creates so many avenues for you to lie to yourself and give yourself reasons to not address the problem.
Right.
And the other thing is it's not only that you don't address the problem, you create a lesser problem to make you feel better about continuing to do that thing. And so get to the root of it. And Floyd said something that is an outlet for me is every chance I get, I'm listening to music.
Vibrations are powerful.
They said music soothes the savage beast, and it really does. You find your genre of music that you love, that takes you to that calming place. And every morning I start off with it. It's throughout the day. I'm in the gym a lot of times, and most people, when they're in the gym, they listen to more upbeat stuff. But I find myself a lot of times I'm in there listening to slow music, or I'm listening to contemporary gospel music. It just depends on where my head is that day. My music listening is based on my mental, not so much my situation and where I'm at.
Right.
And so, You
That's
definitely
good
want
that
to.
you listen to that instead of going to the gym and putting on some hardcore something that pumps you up. Because if you're in a bad mental state, that's not going to help. That's just going to make you even more aggressive.
Yeah, and that's important in any aspect of life, is that you address the things that affect you directly and not so much worried about what other people are going to think. Um, and it's listen, you are the common denominator in everything in your life. And so that's why it's so important that you do the things that make you happy, do the things that bring you to that calming place. Because if you don't take care of you, it doesn't matter what's going on around you. And your body has a way of letting you know when you're not doing it as well. And so I recommend anybody, even if you're not dealing with PTSD, take some time out and learn about it.
So when you first realized that you had PTSD, what did you do? Did you go to a therapist, or what was the first thing that you chose to do? And what do you think has helped you the most?
Well, this is the thing is with me. I knew that I had PTSD from day one. But the thing about it is, I didn't know what the triggers was, and I didn't know how extensive it was. And I have, when I talk to, somebody professionally, like they start bringing up things that I'm like, that was so much deeper than what I imagined my PTSD to be from. Um, and it was really deep. And so it forced me to face a lot of those things that, like I said, if you don't address it right, you'll put surface level stuff in the place of what the real trauma is.
Right.
And that's what I did. I put things that was just surface level, not so traumatic, in place of those things.
Okay.
And so then for me mentally, it was easier for me to accept that I had PTSD, because I'm like, oh, that's not really a big deal. But when I talked to someone professionally and they stirred up other things that was really seriously traumatic, then I was like, okay, this is bad. And I haven't made the progress that I thought I made. But it allowed me to face those things. And part of that is letting go of a lot of stuff, because one of the other symptoms is guilt. And that's probably a harder thing to let go of, because it depends on what transpired that caused you to have this guilt and the severity of it. It's a lot of people, especially military men, the stuff that they've seen and done. You hear about it all the time without going into detail, like guys that were really in the trenches and had to do some unimaginable things. They still have those faces that appear, from what they had to do. Cops as well. You still see those faces of those people, and it's hard. And so the guilt of it is like you start thinking about the family. It's hard for you to celebrate things in your life because you know that person will never get to that point in their life to where they get to have those experiences, and those things stir up a lot of emotions. And so that's why a lot of military men, they don't talk about what they've done, because it stirs up those emotions. So I know even with me,
See, even with that, I would say that just by talking about it will actually be the proper step going towards a better future for yourself. Because even though it's at points in time, certain things will hurt, certain things will get to that depression mode, certain things will get you down and all that. But at the same time, just by getting it out,
Mhm.
you know, that's one step closer to a brighter future.
Yeah, it's thing about even talking about it is you have to be ready to talk.
Mm-hmm.
You can't, for somebody that is dealing with somebody that has PTSD, you cannot force them to talk about
Right.
it. Uh,
Because just in talking about it can be a trigger, right?
yeah, because like we said about admitting that you have a problem, is like not everybody that has a problem when they first encounter it being a problem is ready to admit, because a lot of people don't even see it as a problem. They don't see it as a problem. They may know they have it, but I don't see it as a problem. And if I don't see it as a problem, how could you possibly see it as a problem? Especially when it's pertaining to me.
So when do you get to the point that you see it as a problem?
When it starts affecting your daily life. As sad as that sounds, and a lot of times it's not until you see that it's affecting people that are close to you. Like when you start seeing that, like your emotions or your lashing out is becoming to where it's affecting people, almost to the point to where people don't want to be around you. Like, or you can't be around people.
Right.
You start loving solitude, like to the point to where you really become a hermit. And then at that point, people that love you, they'll start being more concerned, especially if you start drastically changing who you are, who they know you to be. It's like, and that's why it's so important. You know, we talked about circles and your friends. Dealing with something like PTSD, man, it's so important to have people that are close to you, because those are the people that will sense those little subtle changes in your attitude and how you deal with people and how you deal with situations. Right. Those are the ones that would, you know, pull you off to the side, like, hey, you good? Mm-hmm. If you don't have those people in your life, you got to get some. You got to get some. And if the people that's currently in your life is not like that, you don't need them. You don't need them, because those are the little subtle benefits that mean the most. Is those people that recognize when you are not being yourself, and they're willing to like pull you off to the side, and they're truly concerned with your health and well-being. Those are the ones that right, those are your we talked about constituents and comrades and confidants. Those are your confidants. Those are the ones. Those are the ones that when you walk in a room, they can feel the energy is different. Right? Like they don't even have to be looking at you. You can walk in a room and they'll turn around like, okay,
dude, what's up with you?
Like yeah, something's off with you today. You're good. Yeah. And with PTSD, like I said, a lot of times you may not be ready to talk to anybody about it. But just the fact that you have people around you that recognize it when something's different is important, you know, because the other thing to it is like you may know it's there, but you have shut that part of your brain off that will allow you to recognize that it's stirring up, that it's being triggered. And so that's why it's so good to have those confidants around you. Does anybody have anything else to add to this very interesting topic?
Great topic. I just want to point out that we're all matching today with our blue. I just noticed that.
Oh, okay.
we all got the blue going on. And actually, the color for PTSD awareness is teal. So I was going for teal, but blue's close enough. But that it just
I was going to put on teal.
Teal is the color for PTSD awareness.
Yes. Mm-hmm. The other thing is like conversations like this is very important conversations to have, because what it does, the more you get educated about it, whether you deal with it or not, the more alert you are when you see someone that's dealing with it, especially if you're a confidant, especially if you're a parent. If you educate yourself about this and you have children, it's so important because our kids don't know what it is.
I think it's important for everyone to know the signs and symptoms because there's a lot of children who have it.
Yeah.
And we get angry at our children thinking they're acting up when really there's a lot of times it's symptoms. They're responding to PTSD. That was me at first. I didn't know my son was dealing with PTSD, and I'm like, what the hell? You just threw the plate across the room. Like I didn't realize what was going on at first. So just to have these conversations so people can see those signs and symptoms and have compassion for what is going on with their loved ones is so important.
It's so difficult to be a child these days. They deal with a lot of stuff that we never had to deal with. I could not see being a child in today's society because they not only have to deal with the physical interaction of people, they've got to deal with social media. And it is, as an adult, it's a nightmare. I couldn't imagine as a kid having to.
Floyd, that is such a great point. Social media itself will give you PTSD. That is a great point.
It will, and that's why to bridge what I was saying and what Floyd said, that's why it's so important for parents to recognize what PTSD is because it will. I firmly believe, and I don't have kids that really grew up in the era of social media, but if I did, I would tell you this: my child isn't accessing social media until a certain age. I see these kids with phones at 6, 7, and 8 years old,
and it is real too. Like I'm laughing about it because we're older and we're like, social media can't cause PTSD. No. My niece has seen comments on social media and has like literally broken down crying.
There's a lot of teenage suicide.
For a mind that doesn't know how to process the information that's out there on social media, it can be very damaging.
Oh yeah, and then the stuff that people post, people don't have boundaries, and when people cross those boundaries and they start going on social media, bashing other people, you don't know how people deal with that.
Right.
And I know for a fact that stuff has led to suicide. That stuff has led to suicide. If there's people out there that's dealing with something and they're steadily being pushed to the edge, if they don't have those outlets or those confidants, they don't know how to relay that, how to handle that.
And saying it's easy to say, oh, if I had a kid that young, I wouldn't let them on social media. But all my children are now on social media. Granted, they're 13, 16, and 26 now, but I think about my younger, nieces and nephews that are on social media, and it's hard because their parents did the same thing. I'm not letting my kids on social media at a young age. But when all your friends are talking about it, they all have phones and they're on it.
Yeah, you can't stop everything. It's just like
they're going to see it regardless.
Sex and drugs.
Even if you don't give it to them, they're going to find it at a friend's house. They're going to be searching it up.
And that's what I'm saying is like first of all, you're not having a phone. So if you access social media, you're gonna be very inventive in how you access it. I know you won't have it in my house.
Okay, well, Tim, one thing about when it comes to kids.
I love it.
Okay. Now, you're saying that they won't have a phone in your house. It's always going to be something that causes you to go against all that. Something's going on at school. Go to the office, use the phone.
Well,
go to
now,
the teacher, use the phone. But you like, well, the thing is that you want your kids to have some type of device.
Not at certain ages, yes, but no. I know plenty of parents. I know a ton of parents that their kids didn't get phones till they was 12 and 13 years old.
Right, that was mine. That was mine. But my son was 10. His older sister's at 13. But now they communicate with their teachers through their phone. They communicate with them. They send emails. They're responsible for all that. If they didn't have their phone, it would be very difficult. So we live in a society that makes it almost necessary to have a phone.
Yeah, at a
Even-
certain
but see,
certain age, I'm talking
even
6,
with
7,
that, though.
8, 9, 10-year-olds.
Right.
They're not having a phone. There's ways that you can see, and that's the thing is we become so dependent on certain things that we have told ourselves there's no other way to do it other than that way,
Right.
because we've been so dependent.
there's plenty of ways
It's just
you
like
can
our
do it.
phone. It's just like our phones as an adult. We still don't know how to put our phones down when it comes to social settings and,
Right.
and eating dinner.
Right.
True.
We feel like we gotta have and especially the older age group when phones wasn't a thing back when we were. For some reason now you can't put it down.
Right. Every 3
You
seconds.
never had to
Right.
you never had to deal with a phone before.
Now we're so dependent
Now all of
on
a
it.
sudden, because you have told yourself, I need
it.
my phone.
See, that social media.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but it's
Mhm.
yeah. I look, no sir. When you get to high school,
Mhm.
you know,
But that's
you
why
can have
it's
a phone
good
then.
even for us to detox from our phone, go on a camping
Uh-huh.
trip or something for a few days. Put your phone, don't even turn it off, don't even look at it. We need a detox from our phones because we do. A lot of people have panic attacks just from not knowing where their phone is.
Oh yeah.
We become so dependent
Right,
on our
because
phone.
it's like they're constantly trying to see what the next person is doing or
Mhm.
saying, you know, and even
Scared
if it
that
doesn't,
you're gonna miss
right,
something.
even if it doesn't concern you, they still want to be involved with.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know, so.
Well, it's. I know for me, there's been times where I left the house and left my phone at home, and not one time
Mhm.
have I gone unless I'm waiting on a call. There's been times where I've been away from my phone for hours at a
Yeah.
time,
Mhm.
I mean,
I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
If I know I don't have anything super important. If I leave my phone at home, my phone is at home.
Yeah, I've done it plenty of times. I'm gonna get up, get ready for work, go out the door, down the street. Oh man, I forgot my phone. Oh well.
Especially if you're running late. Like, look,
Right.
I'll get that mug at lunch or something, or
Right.
it'll be there when I get home.
When I get home.
Yeah.
But yeah, today was a very important because as we can tell, the more we talked, the more commonplace PTSD and the the range in which you can get PTSD is so simple. Like you just said, I mean, we may have been joking, but people about their phones, not having their phones, that's a trigger for them. Like, and we understand, like, with the advent of social media, it's played such a huge part in our lives. It's affected us in such a negative way as well. Relationships have ended, over social media. It's just a big part, man. And I think the most important thing in all of this is to find the balance.
Right.
I understand.
Is to find a balance in everything you do. Once you find that balance, and that balance is not the same for everybody.
Mhm.
The balance is going to be different depending on who you are. But we appreciate everybody tuning in today to another informative Shoes Off Talk. We will not have a show Saturday. We will be posting previously recorded shows on our YouTube. So if you want to go on to our YouTube, we recommend you go on our YouTube to subscribe, but also check out some of our pre-recorded shows that we've done. But until we meet again, like how we end all shows, love, peace, and